We're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. How are you all doing today? It is great to see you. My name is Kirsten, and on behalf of the Newark Museum of Art, welcome to our Community Day Cherry Blossom Festival presented by the Horizon Foundation for New Jersey. We acknowledge that the Newark Museum of Art is located on the traditional territory of the Lenape, part of the Algonquin Nation. We want to thank you for joining us for our first live program of today. And there is so much more coming up today that I cannot wait to tell you at the end of the session. If you are watching on Zoom, you can drop your questions in the Q&A feature or use the chat at the bottom of the screen. And if you're tuning in on Facebook, please write your questions in the comment box below. I'll try to get to you all by the end of the session. I am so excited to be with you today virtually. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Go ahead and drop it into the chat. Where are you tuning into us from? I'd love to hear. So today we are going to be doing so much fun stuff, and we are going to be starting off our session today with a story and some art. Kind of my favorite things to do, and what a way to start our beautiful Saturday. Awesome, I'm already seeing people in the chat. Welcome everyone. We've got lots of people from New Jersey. I love to see it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and we are going to be reading a book, and I wanna show you what materials we're gonna be needing if you wanna gather them while I read, and then at the end of our book, we are gonna go ahead and create some art. So once again, welcome to this session of Books and Blooms. So for today's art making session, we are going to be doing some printmaking inspired by our story and by Japan's really rich wood block printing tradition. And the great thing about art is that you can make it out of almost anything. So I'm going to be showing you two different techniques today. And so if you could kindly grab these materials or just take a picture of the slide and you can do the activity at a later point. You're going to be needing some kind of cardstock paper, a thicker paper that really won't curl when it gets wet. Paint, you can use acrylic or washable, a paintbrush, a popsicle stick, and aluminum foil. Or alternatively, you can use cardstock, again, some thicker paper, a styrofoam takeout container. You know, we're all about sustainability and reusing things. Pen or pencil, paint, acrylic or washable, whatever you have on hand, and a paintbrush. And I put up for you all a lovely picture of Newark's Branch Brook Park and some cherry blossoms right before they are about to pop. So I hope it encourages you to head on down to the park later today or tomorrow and really take in this nature in person. So today we are going to be reading this lovely book, and it is called Patience Miyuki, and it is by Roxanne Marie Galiz, and it is illustrated by Sensun Ratsavana. Blue earth, orange moon. Spring was all dressed up and ready for her first day of the year. Miyuki was in the garden too. She was already up and running through the garden. Wake up, grandfather, wake up! The day has started without you. Be patient, Miyuki, be patient. In an hour, the day will still be here, and I am enjoying the first rays of sunshine through my window. But you'll miss the last moonbeams of winter. Quick, quick, we might still catch them. Miyuki hopped through the garden and grandfather trotted behind her. Together they greeted each new blossom, and together they bowed to the wind. Good morning, cherry tree. Good morning, sweet grass. Good morning, flowers. Then Miyuki stopped at a little flower that was still asleep, unaware that springtime was beginning all around it. Wake up, little flower, wake up! Be patient, Miyuki. The little flower is not ready to open. It is precious and delicate and needs the purest and finest water. Before grandfather finished speaking, Miyuki was already running to the well. The bucket banged all the way to the bottom. Instead of water, it brought up a big toad. Quick, quick! I need the purest water for my little flower. Be patient, Miyuki, said the well. It hasn't rained since the last full moon. In a few days, I will be full again. Miyuki did not want to wait. Ask the clouds then. Maybe they can help you. Do you think the clouds are going to help Miyuki? Miyuki ran, bucket in hand, to find the brightest and prettiest clouds in the sky. But the clouds she found were too gray, too big, and too far away. Then Miyuki spotted the perfect cloud. Pretty cloud, my little flower needs the purest water to wake up. But the pretty cloud refused to give her its water. Oh my goodness. Do you guys see any of your clouds outside your windows that will maybe help Miyuki get some water? Dismayed, Miyuki continued on her way and met more clouds. Some offered her their water, but it was taking too long to fill her bucket, and Miyuki didn't want to wait. Look how impatient she looks over here, her hands in her face. It was already the middle of the afternoon, and the first day of spring was half gone. Miyuki kept walking farther and farther from her home until she heard water rushing onto the rocks and happened upon a beautiful waterfall. Do you guys hear that? Waterfall, would you give me some of your purest water for my little flower? My purest water lies in a lake beyond these falls. If you wait for night when I am asleep, my water flows softly to you, softly, so you will be able to pass through to take some. Wait! I cannot wait, waterfall. I am in such a rush. If you cannot wait, then I cannot help. Oh my goodness. We need some water for this flower. Miyuki had been running all day, and her little bucket was still empty. A flower-filled house caught her eye. A young boy in a silver moon-colored kimono was watering his garden. Could you give me some of your purest water? My little flower really needs it. The boy wanted to know who Miyuki was and where she was from before he would agree to give her some of his water. So Miyuki told him her story. Then the boy filled Miyuki's bucket. Thank you, Miyuki cried, and then she hurried home, quick. Miyuki was running so fast she didn't see the stepping stones on the path. Suddenly, she was falling. Miyuki's knees were scraped, the bucket was broken, and the water all gone. Evening was falling. She was far from home, and she was exhausted. Miyuki had been up since sunrise, trying to find the purest water for her little flower, and now the first day of spring was almost over. In that silent, still moment, Miyuki heard singing. She knew the song. It was the river that ran by her house. Do you guys hear it? What are you doing so far from home at the hour when the moon outlines the mountains? River, I'm lost. I'm tired. I still don't have the purest water for my little flower. I don't have any water at all. Be patient, Miyuki. Sometimes it is necessary to slow down. I will take you home, and then you can have some of my water. Lulled by the slow, quiet water, Miyuki fell asleep. The river carried her home, where grandfather found her, picked her up, and put her to bed. Blue earth, orange moon, spring was all dressed up and ready for her second day of the year. Miyuki was ready too. She was already up and running through the garden. Grandfather was up too, waiting for her next to the little flower. When Miyuki saw that the little flower was still closed, she started to cry. Two of the purest tears ran down her cheeks. Wake up, little flower, wake up. Be patient, my little girl. Neither flowers nor anyone in the world deserves to be watered by tears. Yesterday you ran away so fast, you missed the first day of spring. Come, sit close to me. Wait, watch for a moment. Miyuki sat and watched and waited. She watched as grandfather smelled the scent of a beautiful blooming flower with generous leaves. As she watched as very slowly he bent down one of its leaves so that a few dewdrops, the purest water, slid down to the sleeping flower. Then the little flower started slowly opening. Good morning, the little flower said. Please forgive me for being late. I've been dreaming of spring. The end. Wasn't that a great story? The little flower, it was having such lovely dreams of spring. It just needed a little bit more time to wake on up. Tell me about a time in the chat when you were patient and your patience paid off. What were you so excited for that you couldn't wait and you had to remind yourself, it's okay, it will happen in its own time. I would love to hear it. So now we're going to shift gears and we're going to create some art that is inspired by this beautiful story. So once again, I'm going to show you what materials you're going to need to participate in this activity, if you already missed that. So we are going to be making some printmaking inspired by the beautiful colors and prints that we saw in this book and also Japan's rich tradition of woodblock prints. You can make this out of so many different materials. That's the best thing about art is it's very forgiving and experimental. But for today's activity, I'm going to show you two techniques. You can do one using cardstock, which is a thick paper that won't curl when you get it wet. Paint, you can use whatever you have on hand, acrylic, washable, a paintbrush, popsicle stick, aluminum foil. Or feel free to use, again, some cardstock, some thicker paper, styrofoam takeout container, a pen or pencil, paint, again, acrylic or washable, really whatever you have available, and a paintbrush. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Who's ready to make some art? I am. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we are going to switch over views. So you're going to be looking at my table. Okay, so here we are. So traditionally, like I mentioned, Japan has a really great tradition of woodblock prints, and they used to make it using carvers, wood, a brayer, or special carving block, and you would carve out your picture, roll some ink onto it, and stamp it. So we are going to be doing a more DIY at-home version that you can use using everyday materials. So instead, we're going to put this to the side, and we're going to be using foil or a styrofoam takeout container. I used my takeout container. I washed all of the excess food off of it and I cut it into these squares to make it a little bit easier. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to be making a design on our foil or on our styrofoam, and then we're going to apply some paint, and then we're going to take paper and stamp it, and that is what is going to create our print. And I am really inspired by all the beautiful patterns we see in this lovely story. If we just open this book, you can see the lovely repetitiveness of this pattern. I think is really beautiful. Thinking about all the colors we have in this story, and also thinking about the colors of the cherry blossoms in Branch Brook Park. So I have a lot of pinks here that I'm going to be using to kind of convey that feeling and capture the feeling of the beautiful trees that I saw when I visited Branch Brook Park. Have you recently seen any cherry blossoms? Put into the chat. Tell me about your experience viewing these beautiful trees and nature. I love spring so much. So I'm gonna do the foil technique first. So with the foil technique, what we're gonna do is you are going to take some paint, shake it on up, and apply the paint to the foil. I'm going to use my popsicle stick to help kind of spread out the paint. And I want it to be kind of nice and thick. And spread it on out, just like that. And the great thing about this is that it's very experimental. You never really know how it's going to turn out. And that's kind of the fun of it, is that you never really know how it's going to turn out. And it might surprise you and turn out even better than you thought. Or sometimes, you know, you got to be patient with it, just like grandfather from our story encourages us. So I spread out some of my paint. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge, the bottom tail of my paintbrush that doesn't have the brush, and I'm going to draw. So I'm going to try to draw some flowers that I see, and I'm just going to brush away. And you can kind of see that it's picking up the foil. And I'm removing the foil, or the paint from the foil, and that's what I'm going to try to capture. And this is one technique that printmakers use, where they kind of take a plate, a metal plate, and they etch into it, and they remove some of it to pick up the paint. So we're kind of riffing off of that. So I'm just going to keep removing until I have my design. You can create kind of abstract swirls. You can try to create a more reputational flower that looks like a flower. It's really up to you. Okay, and then once I'm kind of happy with my design, you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to lightly press it. And then we're going to peel this paper up. And that one was kind of a bust, but that's okay, because that is all part of the art making process. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to just get upset because this didn't turn out how I wanted it to turn out. I'm now going to experiment and create a different type of print. So that's the great thing about art, is if things don't turn out how you envision, you work with it, right? So I'm going to go abstract. I was going to try to be originally representational first, but I've decided I'm going to be abstract instead. So I'm going to get some different colors on here. Add some other colors to try to recreate all the different beautiful colors that we see in the flowers. Add some paint. I'm going to use the fluffy end of my paintbrush instead. And I'm going to kind of swirl like this. And this kind of reminds me of the swirling and the striations you see in the blooms. And I'm just going to use all this. And I love how the colors, you can kind of see the stripes of the colors, how they're not all mixed in. And I'm going to add that to this print right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it and add it. And now I have this cool abstract print that reminds me of the cherry blossoms and how it picks up the colors. It kind of reminds me of these flowers that I have right here. So you can kind of see all the different colors in these leaves. Oops, I got some paint on it, and we have the green. And it reminds me kind of my print, which is really cool. That something that is so abstract can recreate an experience or feeling we have with nature. Okay, so that was using the foil technique. Why don't we shift over and look at ways that we can do this with Styrofoam. So I'm going to move this over. Tell me in the chat about a time that you were creating art and you had to shift gears because it didn't go quite how you anticipated it. A time when you had to remind yourself to be patient with the art making process. That's a good lesson. So once again, we have, this is our Styrofoam. I cut it from my takeout container and I'm going to use a pen and I'm going to draw my design into the foil, or I'm sorry, the Styrofoam. So I'm going to be inspired by the pattern we saw in the book with these circles and dots. So I'm going to try to recreate something that kind of looks like that, but putting my own little twist on it. So I'm going to start in the corner and I'm going to add kind of some scallops, I guess I would call these shapes. You can use the whole entire sheet. You can use as much or as little as you want. It's really up to you and your vision. You can tell me in the chat, what are you planning on making and what are you planning on conveying? Are you going to go for something representational and do an actual flower or something? Or are you going to go for a pattern or kind of an abstract color feel? Tell me what you are going to do. I want to give a shout out to all my friends on Facebook who are tuning in with us today. All right, so I have that set, okay? And what we are doing is we are pressing down hard into the Styrofoam so that when we apply the paint, it won't sink in to where we were just pressing, right? It will only be sitting on the top of it. And so hopefully where we press will remain white. So I'm gonna take some paint. And then I'm gonna use my popsicle stick once again to cover it and hopefully not have the paint seep into the cracks that I just pressed into my drawing. Just gonna brush like that. Okay. Then you're going to use that to once again take some paper. You can use any color cardstock and you're going to press it. You can create a one-of-a-kind print, and every time you print it, it's going to be a little bit different, which is the really cool thing about prints. And you can see here my design and how we have the outline of our pattern. And you can see kind of areas where maybe the paint got into the cracks and where it didn't. And it's kind of really cool and it adds a lot of texture and dimension to this. If you are not a paint person, you really don't like to get messy, another great trick to use is to use paint sticks. So we have some paint sticks. And these are really great too. If you are using the Styrofoam method, you can create your design and you can add multiple colors. So let's go for more abstract swirly. Making sure I'm pressing hard. And then you can take these sticks, just lightly go over. You want to add lots and lots and lots, working quickly so it doesn't dry out. Just like that. And then, once again, you take your piece of paper and you're going to lightly press. And it will result with a print, just like that. So there's so many different methods and ways to do printmaking, and it is so much fun, all the different experimentation you can do. So I want you to try this. Tell me how it works for you. Share it with us on Facebook. Take pictures, upload it, tag us on Instagram. I would love to see all of the art that you make as you are inspired by nature, cherry blossoms, and the artistic process itself. So I just want to kind of show you all the different options once again, so you can do something that's a little bit more abstract, mix paint around and press it. If you want to add on to this, you can also use that same method of removing and kind of adding a design into what you already printed, kind of scratching and etching away and adding a design. If you want to kind of combine the colors with, more control of drawing, you can just go for a simple pattern. But really, the most important thing is to just put your own spin on it and really enjoy the process and have fun with it. So I would love to hear how your activity goes. I'd love to hear it. Put it in the chat. If you're still gonna be making art all today, make sure you upload it to social media and tag us. We would love to see what you create. And I just want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you enjoyed this, I encourage you to sign up for our other sessions today for more cherry blossom fun. Coming at 1 p.m., we have the Sugar Showdown, a dessert decorating challenge. We also ask you to please consider donating to the Newark Museum of Art so we can continue to bring this virtual programming into your homes. We will put the link into the chat for you. And you can sign up for the rest of today's events on our website, newarkmuseumart.org. Later today, you're going to have the chance to learn how to make cherry blossoms out of paper, learn about traditional Japanese tea ceremony. There are so many great things we have in store for you today. And if you are a fan of our community days, we have a next one on Saturday, May 15th, and it will be an art extravaganza. We'll put the link into the chat for you as well for you to check that out. And if you don't follow us on social media, I really encourage you to. We have so many great things going on there, and that's another way for you to be kept abreast of what we have going on at the museum. One in particular I want to give a shout out to is our Battle of the Wards art competition. So for more information, check out our Instagram page on that. And I want to once again thank you and wish you a beautiful day of art making and cherry blossoms. Have a great day, everyone.